Hey dudes. Alright, so here we are. We're back for round two. I fucked up, made a rare mistake, and I ended up wasting. Basically, I lost a whole day of progress, which is not to say that much because it was just an hour and a quarter. So. Anyway, it's all good. So here we are. We're going to try to bounce back and do a little better this session. So what we need to do is we need to do the right thing with this to do, and we're not gonna mess with converting context managed DBs to non-context managed DBs. Made a mistake. It's all good. Moving forward anyway, so let's look at this to do. It's review logic associated with serialize and insert function. And this is determined whether to use self cursor or the context managed dbcon from the context in which the function is called. So yeah, I should have been a little bit more careful. I even wrote be careful, ensure done properly. Ho 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 ho. Well, alright. You know. Can't be perfect, right? So let's go over here to serialize and insert function. Pose that shit, cuz. Whoa! Man. There we go. So serialize and insert function, we want to know, should we use self cursor here? And this is actually really simple, I think, because all we're doing is we're inserting into the save data table. And this would always insert into the self cursor, which is the self DB, which is the only one we actually like use throughout the game without deleting it. Like we just keep it open the entire game basically. This connection, we don't close it and you know, just reopen it like we would do with the cursor stable or DB stable and then DB stable backup, the other two databases. This one remains open. So yeah, I think we're good here to use self cursor. But what I did just realize is that we do need to set the pragma settings for the context managed databases. And I'm thinking here, like, so we have the context managed databases, they're throwaway, the connections well, the file, like the entire file, we vacuum into. So do we actually need to vacuum into? Like technically, couldn't we make technically couldn't we So, couldn't we just not use vacuum into? And this is so dumb because I'm like, honestly, I just like undid the work, and then I'm like, well, wait a second, couldn't we actually just couldn't we just change the system so that we're not using vacuum into? Is there a way to like update the changed values? You know, I'm really not that worried about it. If we have an issue with it, with using the context managed database system, the throwaway using vacuum into, I remember we questioned about this and the performance of vacuum into versus alternative methods and stuff. So I'm going to go ahead and just stick with that. I'm not going to modify that anymore. So if we have problems with it, we can always change it later. I'm just going to move on. I'm not worried about it. Right? It's not that big of a deal. So just putting that off for now. We're going to use self cursor. That's perfectly fine. I should have just left it. So serialize and insert function to determine whether to use self cursor or the context. So okay, I'm guessing this function gets called in another context. Is that the issue? Let's see. So if we search for this, needs to be tested. Determine that we are disabling all code associated with more precise frequent saved. Okay. So we're not actually using that right now. Then okay. Why did it go back to the top? Should probably add in serialize and insert function here to record visual updates persistently. Serialize and insert function, self object name data. So we're not actually using that function anyway. Save state function. So yeah, are we using a context managed DB here? Well, we are. Okay. My question is, what database is this using? With SQLite 3 DB path equals save data. Don't we have this as an attribute? db.save data db. Why wouldn't we just use the attribute? Oh, we don't actually have that one. But there's no real reason to not have it. It's not a big deal. Save function. So DB path here. Save data DB. SQLite DB path. So this is connecting to if this is connecting always to save data DB, then could we not just use the reference through the instance attribute to say, instead of using with, we would say cursor equals self.cursor or whatever, and do all that? Because yeah, if we're using the save data database, which that's what we're doing, and we create another table just for checkpoint ID and timestamp last save. We insert into checkpoint ID. Yeah. I think that it's perfectly fine for us to not use the context manage DB here, DB connection. Because, like ChatGPT was saying, if we're not going to be, unless we have to create a new connection, which we do for stable and stable backup, we shouldn't be using the overhead, bringing about the overhead associated with creating a new DB connection, because that does take time. It's like hooking a plug up to a socket. It's you keep plugging it back to the socket over and over again. You can just leave it plugged in, you know. But for the other two, we basically have to replug it. So there's a good reason to use the context manager, because the context manager implicitly closes it at the end of the operation. But since this function exclusively uses the base form database, then we would use the instance adder, aka we would just use the already existing connection, because that's created upon instantiation, or rather it's created once we run save DB setup function. Yeah, once we run the save DB setup function, this gets modified. This database connection gets created. But since this one doesn't actually get deleted, this database connection, that is, it remains throughout the project. We can have this executed inside of the initializer. And this is where we went wrong before. This is where we saw this and we were like, well, we'll just do that for all of them, but for all three of them, but it doesn't work like that. So let's see here. We got determine that it is the best practice to use with for context management. Therefore, it is not wise to use this function in its current state, since this connection is left open and used. It would be more proper to instead use with to create a new connection each time we wanted to access the database. Therefore, it should modify this function or remove completely. Ensure we are modifying all associated code when doing so. So this is not actually what we want to do. We're going to remove that to do. And what I'll do this time, instead of just deleting it outright, I'm going to do what I usually would have done when modifying code, which is to temporarily disable the old code, replace, add in the new code, and just put a caution comment above the disabled code saying, hey, this code is being disabled, it's being replaced by a new version. We're going to leave it around until we're sure that the new code is valid. So if, what just happened last session, we realized we made a mistake and we want to revert back to the previous form, we already have that previous form in existence. All we have to do is remove the caution comment, re-enable the code block, and get rid of, you know, the code we replaced it with. So let's just go ahead and add that. We'll say below function 618.25, disabling this code as we are replacing it with as we are moving it to execute inside of the init instead. Leaving until 100% sure new code is valid. So for whatever reason, if we decide we want to have this executed through the function, we can just come back and re-enable this code. So we'll copy it. Then what we're gonna do is we're gonna comment this out. We'll go up here to init, all the way to the tippity top here, and then we'll do, I don't know why this looks so silly. So now we have db and cursor equals none. We'll get rid of that. So now we have this little section here which creates the db. It creates the cursor. It sets up the journal mode and synchronous for this database connection, and then it creates that table. Why did we not copy the code that creates the other table? The second table, is that not in this one? Okay, it's not in that one. We actually create the other table in the other function. We'll just put a caution comment here. This code previously existed inside of what's it called? Serialize and insert function. Moved it here as it just made more sense. Slash is more simple. Remove this caution comment once we are sure this code is valid. Alright. And there is see, so we can go over here to things to do and we can remove this. So that one's knocked off the list, but what were we actually doing here? Like, why were we looking? Well, we noticed this and we said we can move it to init, but wasn't there another reason? There was something else I was looking at. Oh, okay. I remember we were saying for whatever it was we were looking at, we could just use self cursor instead. But what was it? It wasn't this. It wasn't that. It wasn't this. It wasn't any of this. I don't know. I can't remember. My memory is that bad, I guess. It's kind of sad. I'll have to find it. Okay, here it is. It's this save state function. There it is. That's what we were looking at. Yeah, so this we can convert to use the to just use no context manager, because we use the DB path, which is save data. Instead, we would just use the existing connection through self.db, and we'd use self.cursor or self.db, whatever the attribute is called, to access that connection's cursor. We wouldn't have to set up this pragma settings because they would already be done. So we would get rid of like 1, 2, 3, 4. We get rid of like pretty much all these lines. And then this line here where we create the table, do we actually need this line or do we need the other location wherein this same code is called? AKA, which line should be kept? Should they both be kept? Do we need the other location wherein this code is called? Where is this called? Like, where do we run this code again? Create table if not exists, save data. So this is for the save data. This is not the creation of the checkpoint ID. So this is what we need. This could be moved. So like this could be moved. Or how do we do this? What's the other one? Question mark? There we go. So let's put that in blue. And then we'll put this one as well. So that could be moved. We'll just do it the typical way, actually, because that's kind of odd behavior. That's not how we normally do things. I want to stick to our conventions. So we'll say, this is really how I normally code. Very careful. I comment what I'm going to do with a caution comment. Then I do it. Then I remove the caution comment after I make sure it's done, instead of just kind of like doing things. It does take longer, but it's just way safer. And I just like reminded myself by having to revert back to the previous state. It's safer. Like it's just smarter to be safer. It's always worth it to just take the extra time to add in that like security, you know? So below line 1625, move this to be executed in it instead of move this to be executed in it instead. Since it only needs to be done 1x. That makes sense, right? So what we'll do is we'll copy this line, comment it out, and now we're just going to say, we're going to change this to moved this to execute since only be done 1x, leaving this line until I'm 100% sure new location is valid. Now we'll go up to init, and we're going to place this right here, and we're just going to say self.cursor. So now it happens once. We create the save data table, and then we create the checkpoint ID and timestamp last save, and this happens upon instantiation. So as you can see, that's just a little cleaner. So that was line 236. So let's go back to 236. All right. Move this. All right. Now this just is unnecessary completely. We can get rid of this, we can get rid of that, we can get rid of this, get rid of that, get rid of this, get rid of this. We don't need any of that. So we can just completely get rid of, bam, all that. Boom. You do not use the self DB or self cursor. Use this instead, as this is the proper way to do so. Using with to manage opening and auto closing of DB each time. Yeah, but that's not actually true, as we've learned. And we also don't need the DB path because we just don't. So all this code now can get moved up to the one level like this. So now we have handles saving of checkpoint ID and timestamp last saved to separate table. And we have the current time. This was the creation of that table. And you know what? I'm just gonna remove this because I'm fairly confident we just get rid of it completely because we know that table exists. And now you have verified that this upsert method is the fastest via testing. Okay. But we're going to do self.cursor instead. Insert in checkpoint ID, blah, 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 blah. Set value, checkpoint ID, and then timestamp last save. So we have these two different ones here. There you go. What are we doing? So we're going to go back up to init. What about this? Let's see. This code previously. Blah, 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 blah. Oh, we need to disable the serialize and insert function. Or no, we don't. I'm tripping. Always make sure your comments reflect your updated code. It's very important. Give self master save object date, get object name key. Yeah, so none of this should be changed. This should all be good. I just need to make sure we have cursor being properly referenced here. So that's the only place it's referenced in this function. So we don't actually use final object here. Isn't this bugged? Shouldn't we use final object here? We serialize and insert the function at the object name key object data, but shouldn't we pass in the... Yeah, should we... I feel like we're supposed to pass this in. The final object. It's equal to the skeleton card group dict. Because we populate So we have the empty skeleton card group dig. We iterate through the actual. We grab the card from the actual. We create the data tube from the actual. Then we insert the tube into the skeleton card group dict. And then we say final object equals skeleton card group dig. And then we go to serialize and insert the function. Insert the data through the function. But why do we pass object data instead of final object? Final object should be what gets passed. Object data would be... Oh, I see. I should call this object data. I forgot to go back and change this. Because for each one, we say object data is what gets... this function call spans or applies to all the if, elif, else. And in each one, we pass, we assign object data to the data that gets passed to this function. So we need to change this final object to instead be called object data. There we go. Now that's better. Found a little bug there. Okay. What else do we need to do? So we were just making sure that cursor was properly referenced, and we actually don't use it anywhere else. See how much cleaner that is? We have so many, so fewer lines. We got rid of at least 10 to 15 lines, so that's good. I feel like this is. I think we can move on. Yeah. I'm gonna say I think we're doing all right here. I don't think we did anything wrong. I think we improved. All right, so we're moving to the next task. Let's see what that is. What do I feel like I'm forgetting something though? We were gonna we were gonna review the OS path exists code. But I'm pretty sure like we determined that could be necessary, or rather it's really just a safeguard for OS remove, and OS remove is necessary, so like it's always best practice to make sure the path exists before you run OS remove. Technically that's a ghetto way of saying try OS remove except. So, because if the path exists, but remember, see, we had changed this to where we wouldn't have needed it, but then we reverted back to the state before where we probably do need it, because I put this comment here in all caps, which says this line is necessary, do not remove. Varies whether path exists when function is called. So I'm just going to trust myself here, and we're going to just leave that. If path exists. What about for up here though? If path exists, I think we probably would need it as well, because sometimes the path doesn't exist. Reviewed all of this logic in the area. Keep it as is. Safety nets for possible corruption during DB copies. Gotcha. Because I mean, maybe this isn't necessary, but I'm gonna leave it. I'm not gonna delete it. If it's 99% perfect versus 100, I think I would rather leave it 99%. Like, is it worth breaking the code to gain 1%? I would say no. It's just not. So, if OS path exists, self-save data stable path. Because sometimes we don't have... Yeah, we do need to check this, because sometimes stable doesn't exist. Like, if it's the first time it's being run, then this is actually where it's created. Does that make sense? This is actually where the DB is created here. So if they both exist, we create a connection to the backup, right? And then we could just do, why do we not use with here? There's probably a reason that we don't use with. And we said that we reviewed all this logic, so we're just going to keep it as it is. Remember, we made a mistake last time thinking we were going to improve it, and then we just wasted our time. So we're going to leave this as it is. We already put our double stamp of approval on the shit. So we're going to move on, and we're just not going to fuck with this. If it's broken, it will hopefully show itself to be broken. There's really no gain in us using with. I mean, we could use with right here, but we might not use it for a reason. Let's see what copy db vacuum function does here. I'm really afraid to break my code, you know? If OS path exists, target path, OS remove self cursor execute vacuum into target path. While true, with SQLite 3 connect target path isolation level none as db, target cursor equals db cursor, db okay equals target cursor dot execute, pragma integrity check, and then we say db equals none, target cursor equals none. So with SQLite 3 connect target path, I say yeah, this uses a context manager, and this could be the, well, this gets run on both DBs, the stable and stable backup. So in other words, we couldn't just use the same con to be passed, you know, here, because we would still have to create the connection to the other one. So it just makes more sense to have the with clause take care of that. Right here, though, where we have this db backup equals SQLite 3 connect, the db backup cursor, where we close it and then none, we could actually use a with here probably. We could just say with SQLite 3 connect, and then create the cursor, try accept. It will automatically close it. It really doesn't even save us any line though. It's really just meant to ensure that it gets closed. Does it set it to the db con to none and the backup cursor to none, or is this extra? Because we added this, but I'm like, is this extra? I don't like having extra code. I really don't like having bloat in my code. You got a balance here. So let's say Python 3 SQLite 3. If we create con using with, do we have to set con equal none and cursor equal none after to free up the memory? No, you do not need to manually set con and cursor to none after using with SQLite 3 connect in Python 3. With block handles closing. Con exit is automatically called when the block ends, which commits or rolls back and closes the connection. Cursors do not need to be explicitly closed unless you're managing many. and are concerned about resource usage. Cursors do not need to be explicitly closed. Cursors do not need to be explicitly closed unless you're managing many and are concerned about resource usage. Garbage collection takes care of unused objects. When the block ends, con and cursor will go out of scope, and Python's garbage collector will eventually free the memory. Doing con is only useful if you're holding large objects for a long time and want to free memory immediately. In short, it has no practical benefit. So even if we assign the namespace con to another con later, it would still garbage collect this old con. Yes, reassigning the con variable will allow the previous connection object to be garbage collected as long as there are no other actives. So at the point where con is reassigned to the new connection, the previous has no more references. So Python's garbage will eventually clean it up, but it won't be closed immediately unless you explicitly closed it. Which is why blocks won't be closed immediately unless you explicitly close it. Does with inherently inherent. Why does that look wrong? How do you spell that word? Inherent. Inherently. With ease. I forgot how to spell inherently. No, this is not inherently called the garbage collector, but it does automatically call exit. It comes out through garbage collection. It's automatic. Python uses reference counting. When there's no more, it's called it's collected eventually. How often is eventually? Okay, I got you. Okay, I see. Yeah, we're good. I don't need to worry about that shit. So we don't need to use garbage collection explicitly, and we also don't need the crescendo, baby. Let's see. We don't need to. We don't need to set it to none. It will already do this. So this right here, we don't need that. This will go away. If db is not equal to okay, it means scripted was removed path. Alright. Cleaning up here. So right here we can remove that. But that's only if we're using the width. Well, it doesn't even matter. So that's extra. Do back up cursor. Even if an exception occurred. SQLite it really does. Internal SQLite connection implements enter, returns the connection itself, exit, automatically commits or rolls back, then closes the connection. So it auto commits. That's good. All right, cool. I think we pretty much got that fixed. All right, so add pragma settings. Like we pretty much got the database stuff like really watertight. Like it's really, it's good. You know what I mean? It's tight. I don't really feel like I need to mess with it anymore. Add pragma settings with dbcons. So let's look for these. I don't remove the task until it's complete. Actually, that's best practice. So let's use with, and we're gonna use SQLite. So we're gonna find all instances of that. What we're gonna do is we're gonna make sure we're adding in this pragma journal mode stuff and synchronous to the context manage. And don't we need to create a table? Well, it depends if we're inserting. Well, no, if it just creates a connection to the file. We don't have to like recreate the file. Why? Oops, I hit the wrong fucking button. We don't need to set the journal mode and synchronous here. We're literally doing one operation on it. That's it. So why would we even set the settings when we're doing literally one operation? Let me see. I just don't think if we are using with to execute one db operation, is it worth overhead to set pragma settings? Setting 2 pragmas may be a few milliseconds each time depending on disk speed and system. For a single quick DB operation, this can be a significant fraction of total operation time. Single quick operation per connect. Avoid setting pragmas every time. Keep connection open instead. Avoid setting pragmas every time. Keep connection open instead. We're not going to set the pragma settings for that. Not for this one. Yeah, since we're just literally we're doing one operation, we don't need to just put a note here. Yep. Database master save object object order review. Review the order of the whole of the objects in the database master save object dict to ensure proper order for loading sequence. Okay. I would like to think that we load in the XY display layer after the deck, but the cards will exist, so we can like insert them to the deck. So that would should be taken care of. And we do insert, right, for number 2 for load. Yeah, we do insert. Cool. You know, I'm gonna be honest. I tend to believe that this is gonna be fine as it is, but I'm really not sure. Like, I'm not 100% sure. Like, clickable card list or clicked cards list being loaded. I mean, should I really, like, should I go one by one through this? Do I, like, should I go one through this? Like, I can. I'll say honestly, I should probably just be diligent and go one by one through this. Um, like the only ones that I'm concerned about would be like maybe one of these choose multiple cards and stuff that have like weird side effects. But like I thought I already took care of all that, but you know that's why we do reviews like this. That's why we add the task in. So, you know, I don't really want to do this, but should I, like, just to be diligent? I mean, is it going to be worth it? Maybe. You know, whatever. It's not going to take me that long to do it. I'll, fuck it, I'll do it. I'll add it as the next thing to do. I just, like, honestly don't want to do it out of laziness. Like, I just feel like, I don't really need to do this. I don't think I need to do it. I think I already took care of that. But I did add it as a task. So, maybe I wasn't completely sure. Fuck it. It's not going to take me but maybe 30 minutes to do that. Hopefully, you know. So, go through one by one to determine which... To determine if any are out of order. Take note of ones that have derivative effects, side effects, such as click card active, etc. Yeah, so we'll do that. That'll be our next thing to do. So we're getting there. It's taking a little bit longer as usual. That's just how it is, but I think we got everything nice and tight. I feel pretty confident in it, in the code, all the changes that we made. I'll say about like 90% confidence in everything. We have these few tasks. We got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I was hoping we would only have like 6 or maybe 5, so it's going to take a little bit longer, but that's fine. We're still chipping away at it. We're still making progress. It's no big deal. I'm still happy, not as happy as I would have been because I did make that mistake and it set me back a little bit, but it's alright. It's no big deal. I'm not going to sweat it, dude. 608, that's going to be an hour and 14 minutes, so that's 1.25 hours. 606, right? So this would be, what did we actually do? Just made minor improvements. Made minor improvements to with clauses and other miscellaneous code in save logic. Pi reviewed some things that needed review, etc. So he really didn't do much, honestly. But we did make a couple little improvements. Was it a waste? No, that's just how it is sometimes. So we're at the root of the project directory. We're going to check the branch. We are on the correct branch. We're going to git add to stage everything, git commit -m. I'm just so ready to be done with this shit, bro. Any little slowdown at this point when I'm so close to the finish line, it's like, fuck. It's just, it's kind of, it's more painful. I don't know why, it just feels more painful. So, git push. I'm just like, I'm done. But then it's like, no, you're not done, actually. You got a little bit more. And it's like, wait, but I'm done. But it's like, no, you're not actually done. You got to finish this last shit. It's like, fuck. All right, whatever. 3 files changed, 80 insertions, 81 deletions, git push. So let's push to the remote repo. There we go, push to remote repository. Oh, oops, we didn't put what line we stopped at, but that's okay. We know, I'll know. So we can close all this shit out. We're gonna do our backup now. So we'll go over here to programming projects. Canasta backup is already set to today's date, so we can copy this updated main. We'll go into the backup, delete that one, paste in the new one, enter in text devlog, go to the bottom, and there we go. That's part 2, 454 to 608. That's correct. Alright, so that's it for today, guys. Pretty good progress. Not great, honestly. Whatever. We're still like this close to being able to test it. Hopefully 2 more sessions. No more setbacks, no more mistakes, so we don't have to reverse and lose an hour and a half of work. So let's not do that again. Everyone makes mistakes, but let's try to keep